AI is not replacing work, it is replacing human authority. Most of the conversation about artificial intelligence has been about work. What jobs will disappear? What will machines soon be able to do better than we can? How many people will be replaced, and are any of us prepared for what is coming? Those questions matter, but I think something quieter is happening beneath all of them. We are not only handing AI our work, we are beginning to hand it our judgment. That is the part I cannot stop thinking about. It is becoming normal to ask a machine what something means, what we should say, how we should respond, and whether an idea is worth pursuing. People are using it to write letters, make decisions, interpret feelings, settle arguments, understand relationships, and put language around experiences they have not yet fully understood themselves. Any one of those things may seem harmless. Some of them may be genuinely helpful. But taken together, they raise a question we have barely begun to ask. What happens when we become so accustomed to receiving an immediate answer that we lose patience with the slower process of finding one within ourselves? There has always been a space between a question and an answer. Sometimes that space lasts only a few seconds. Sometimes it lasts for years. It is where we search our memory, listen to our conscience, change our minds, and discover that the first answer was not the truest one. It can be uncomfortable to remain there. We want clarity. We want reassurance. We want someone, or something, to tell us that we are seeing correctly and making the right choice. AI can provide that feeling almost instantly. It can sound calm when we are confused. It can sound certain when we are afraid. It can arrange a complicated situation into clear language and make it appear as though the uncertainty has been resolved. But clarity and truth are not always the same thing. An answer can sound beautiful and still be wrong. It can make perfect sense and still leave out the one thing that matters most. It can reflect our own assumptions back to us so smoothly that we never realize they were assumptions at all. And I do not mean that human beings are always wiser. We are not. We misunderstand each other. We make emotional decisions. We believe what we want to believe. We carry wounds, prejudices, fears, and blind spots into almost everything we see. But human judgment was never valuable because it was perfect. It was valuable because developing it required something from us. We had to live. We had to make mistakes. We had to experience the consequences of our choices. We had to discover that certainty could be misplaced and that intelligence did not always equal wisdom. We became more discerning by being wrong and learning why. A machine can give us information. It can offer possibilities and show us connections we may have missed. But it cannot undergo that transformation for us. And if we continually reach for an answer before that transformation has a chance to begin, we may become more efficient while becoming less capable of knowing what we actually believe. Thinking is not simply a way to produce an answer. The process changes us. The sentence that takes an hour to write may reveal something the immediate sentence never could. The memory we have to search for can lead us toward another memory we did not know was connected. The decision we struggle with may show us what we value, what we fear, and where we have been giving our power away. The struggle is not always an obstacle. Sometimes the struggle is the place where the real understanding is formed. That is why I think the conversation about AI replacing jobs may be too small. The greater concern is what happens when it begins replacing the private authority of the human being, the authority to decide what is true, the authority to choose what is meaningful, the authority to create without first being told what will work, the authority to recognize when something feels polished, persuasive, and completely wrong. We have already surrendered pieces of ourselves to other technologies. Many of us no longer remember telephone numbers because our phones remember them. We no longer build the same mental maps because navigation systems tell us where to turn. Quiet moments disappear because a screen is always close enough to fill them. Now the surrender is moving inward. We can ask a machine to remember for us, write for us, interpret for us, and even help us understand who we are. Again, none of this is automatically harmful. The question is whether we are still participating deeply enough in the process to keep those human capacities alive. There is a difference between asking for help and asking to be replaced. There is a difference between receiving another perspective and surrendering the responsibility to decide. And there is a difference between using a tool and allowing that tool to become an oracle. Human beings have always sought guidance. We have turned to elders, teachers, ministers, therapists, books, friends, dreams, and spiritual traditions. We were never meant to face every question alone. But those forms of guidance came through lives that had been lived. An elder had suffered, a friend knew our history, a teacher could be questioned, a therapist carried responsibility for the guidance being offered. Even a book came from a human being who had risked placing a particular vision of the world on the page. Artificial intelligence can reproduce the language of wisdom without having lived the life from which wisdom comes. It has no childhood to remember. It has never grieved someone it loved. It has never awakened in the night, frightened by the consequences of a decision. It does not have a body that can be harmed, or a limited number of years in which to become who it came here to be. It does not have to live tomorrow inside the answer it gives today. We do. That is where our authority must remain. Not because we are always right, but because the responsibility is ours. An answer may help us. It may challenge us, organize our thoughts, or show us something we could not see alone. But it should not become our conscience. It should not become the final voice that decides what we believe, whom we trust, what we create, or how we understand the meaning of our lives. The spiritual question surrounding artificial intelligence may not be whether a machine can possess a soul. I am not sure anyone truly knows how to answer that. The more immediate question is what happens to our souls while we are living beside it. Do we become more awake or more passive? Do we become more capable of thought or simply more capable of producing? Does this technology deepen our imagination or does it begin imagining in our place? Does it help us hear our inner voice more clearly? Or does its voice become so immediate and convincing that our own becomes harder to recognize? The soul does not speak only through dramatic revelations. It speaks through hesitation, through moral discomfort, imagination, grief, longing, conscience, and the quiet feeling that something can appear completely reasonable while still being wrong for us. Those signals are rarely loud. They need time. They need silence. They need our attention. If every silence is filled, every question immediately answered, and every unfinished thought completed before it has time to become something of its own, We may gain an extraordinary technology while losing contact with the inner conditions that make wisdom possible. I do not think the answer is to reject AI. That world is already here, and the technology can be used in ways that are creative, valuable, and deeply helpful. It can make knowledge accessible, help people communicate, and reveal connections hidden inside more information than any person could examine alone. The real question is how to remain fully human while using it. Maybe that begins with noticing what we are actually asking for. Are we looking for information or permission? Are we seeking another perspective or someone to make the decision for us? Are we developing an idea or avoiding the vulnerability of creating one? Are we asking for help finding our voice or asking for a voice we can borrow because we no longer trust our own? These are not reasons for shame. They are reasons to pay attention. We can still pause before asking. We can form the first thought ourselves, even if it is incomplete. We can question an answer that agrees with us too easily. We can verify what matters and refuse to confuse confidence with truth. We can protect parts of our creative and spiritual lives from becoming completely automated, not because doing everything alone is somehow purer, but because the abilities we stop exercising may eventually become difficult to recover. Most of all, we can stop believing that struggling with something means we are failing. The machine is fast because it does not have to become anyone through the act of answering. We do. Every difficult choice asks something of us. Every honest piece of writing changes the person who writes it. Every period of uncertainty can deepen the capacity to recognize what is true when the answer finally arrives. Perhaps this is the boundary we are being asked to hold. Not a boundary that places humanity on one side and technology on the other, as though one must destroy the other. A boundary between assistance and surrender. Artificial intelligence may become more capable, more persuasive, and more woven into ordinary life than we can presently imagine. It may eventually outperform us in areas we once believed belonged only to the human mind. But intelligence is not conscience. Fluency is not wisdom. Prediction is not imagination. And an answer is not the same thing as the human being who must decide whether to live by it. The future will not be determined only by what artificial intelligence becomes. It will also be determined by what we refuse to stop becoming in its presence.